So when someone says the Earth is flat, the most interesting response isn't, no it isn't. The most interesting response is, why do you think it looks that way? Because the answer is us, map makers, cartographers. We made it look that way. We've been flattening the Earth for centuries, and we did it so well that some people believed us a little too completely. I'm not here to debate whether the Earth is flat. It isn't. That's settled. But I am interested in a question that I think is more interesting. Why does a flat Earth feel right to so many people? Not because of YouTube algorithms or conspiracy thinking, but because of something much older and much more mundane. Maps. We've been flattening the Earth on purpose for over 500 years. Deliberately, carefully, mathematically. And we got so good at it that most people forgot we were doing it at all. Think about the first time you understood what the world looked like. It probably wasn't a globe. It was probably a map on a classroom wall. Flat, rectangular, edges on all four sides. The world fit neatly inside of a frame like a picture. And that image, that flat rectangle, became your default, the mental model you carry around without thinking about it. When someone says, picture the world, most people don't picture a sphere. They picture a Mercator. They picture a flat thing. Now, here's what's interesting. That flat map on the wall, it wasn't wrong. It was a projection, a mathematical translation of a curved surface onto a flat one. And every projection requires choices. What to preserve, what to sacrifice, what to distort. You cannot take the skin off a globe and lay it flat without sacrificing, tearing, stretching, or breaking. It's geometry. But nobody told you that. Nobody said, hey, this rectangle on the wall is a compromise. It was just the map. It was presented as the truth rather than a translation. Let me show you what I mean. Here's a globe. This is the most accurate representation of Earth you can hold in your hands. Every proportion is as close to right as we can get at this scale. Now here's the problem. I can't hang this on a wall. I can't print it in a book, and I can't put it on a screen without choosing an angle. The globe is perfect and also completely impractical for almost everything we actually use maps for. So we project. We take this curved surface and we translate it into something flat. And the moment we do that, we're making choices. This is Mercator, originally published in 1569. It became the default world map for centuries, and it's still the one most people picture. It was designed for sailors. It preserved straight-line compass bearings, which are incredibly useful if you're navigating a ship across the Atlantic. It was never designed to show you what the world looks like, but that's what we used it for 450 years. And what does it do? It stretches everything away from the equator. Greenland looks the size of Africa, but it isn't. Africa is 14 times larger. Alaska looks bigger than Mexico. It isn't. The northern hemisphere dominates the frame. It's a visual argument that most people never realize they're absorbing. Now look at this one. Completely different story. The shapes look odd if you grew up with Mercator, but the sizes are actually correct. Africa dominates. South America is enormous. The proportions match reality. Two completely different versions of the truth. And neither one is lying, they're just translating differently. The question is whether you know you're reading a translation at all. And this is where flat Earth thinking gets interesting. Not as a belief system, but as a symptom. Because if you've spent your entire life looking at flat maps and nobody ever told you those maps were translation, the flat Earth doesn't seem like a crazy idea. It feels like the thing you've been looking at your entire life. It looks exactly like the map on the wall. Flat Earthers aren't inventing a new image of the world. They're taking the image we gave them and asking why we're overcomplicating it. And the answer, that the flat thing is a mathematical compromise designed to solve specific problems, that answer requires understanding projection. It requires knowing that every flat map is a deliberate distortion. And most people were never taught that. We don't teach cartographic literacy. We teach maps as facts. Here's where the countries are. Here's where the oceans are. We never say, oh, and by the way, everything you're looking at has been warped to fit into a rectangle. We just show the rectangle and move on. The flat Earth debate wasn't really about the shape of the planet. It's about the power of visual framing. The most seen image on Earth is a map, some version of the world projected flat. Billions of people encounter it every single day on screens, in classrooms, on walls. And almost nobody stops to ask, who made this choice? What did they preserve? What did they sacrifice? Why does the world look like this particular rectangle? Maps aren't neutral. They never have been. Every projection is an argument. Mercator's projection argues that navigation matters most. Gall-Peters' projection argues that area equality matters most. The Equal Earth projection, which the African Union formally adopted last year, argues that the Global South has been visually marginalized for centuries, and it's time to fix that. This is the only version that doesn't argue anything. It just is. But the moment I flatten it, I'm making a case. I'm choosing what matters. And whatever I choose, I'm leaving something off. The Earth isn't flat, but every map is. And the distance between those two facts is where all of cartography lives. That's the whole discipline, the art and the math and the philosophy of translating a sphere onto something you can hold, hang, fold, or scroll through. Every map is an act of flattening. The only question is whether you know what was lost in the process.